Labor has been exposed. The secrecy and the duplicity of the Albanese government and their weakness in the face of radical Islam now laid bare for all to see. Just last night, I had this to say on revelations that Perth-born ISIS doctor Tarek Kamla was not dead as previously thought, but alive and behind bars in an Iraqi prison. And he is just one of a group of 13 Australians, so tells us the Iraqi officials, being investigated by them over allegations that they were terrorists for Islamic State. Now, to date, as we know, it's the women and the children who've returned here. Soon it'll be the men, mark my words. Now, is Australia involved here? Is our government or our officials any part of this? Are they across it? Are they being briefed? Again, no comment from Home Affairs. But knowing what I do about how Canberra works, not for 1 minute do I believe that Australian authorities are out of the loop on any of this. Not for 1 minute do I think that this front page of the newspaper today was a surprise to Tony Burke or his Home Affairs Department. I just don't buy that. I suspect that's precisely why Home Affairs refused to make a comment. Well, I was right. Today we learn, again via the Australian newspaper, that not only does the Albanese government know all about this Dr. Jihad, but they've known about him for years. Yes, years, and they've kept it a secret. Reports today that Penny Wong's Department of Foreign Affairs was briefed about Kamlah's survival 4 years ago in 2022 and again last year exposes just how compromised the Albanese government is when it comes to the issue of ISIS returnees, be they male or female. As reporter Mohammed Al-Fares and Paul Garvey have said today in The Australian, and they got this from a DFAT source, officials knew about Dr. Jihad from a tip-off by US agents in Iraq, but, quote, decided to stay out of it and not get involved. Well, they are involved. Deciding not to get involved is a decision in itself. Because as the Iraqi authorities said in their media statement yesterday, the potential repatriation of Tareq Kamla back to Australia remained, and I quote, an open yet conditional pathway. And so by leaving it to Baghdad to take the running on this bloke, this alleged terrorist, it all but guarantees he'll face little opposition returning to this country. And when asked, Albanese will just claim his government's doing nothing to assist Dr. Jihad's return, or that of the other 12 men that the Iraqis report all want to come back to Australia. But deciding not to stop the return of this man is helping him. Not imposing an exclusion order is helping him. Not stopping him at all in any way is absolutely getting involved. Now, Albanese, you are fooling no one here. Has Dr. Jihad already lodged an application for a new passport? Well, I want to know that. Has he had a prison visit from any Australians, Muslim mates or government officials? Has his Perth-based family had any contact with him? Is this where Tony Burke's political ally, Dr. Jamal Rifi, is going to deploy his repatriation efforts next? Now, all of these questions deserve an answer. I can tell you from experience that if DFAT has had a briefing on this individual, other departments will have been briefed as well. Absolutely Home Affairs and the Prime Minister's own department. Reports today say ASIO is across it. Well, I bet they are. And our international intelligence arm, the agency ISIS. I don't know, but I would highly suspect it's also been an issue discussed in the National Security Committee of Cabinet, the NSC. And I bet they did it under the line, as an under-the-line item to limit the paper trail, because it is dynamite. And it's dynamite because Labor's political dependence on the Muslim vote in the key seats they hold, like Tony Burke's own seat of Watson, compromises them in every way. Burke holds his seat, and the Albanese government turns a blind eye to the return of these ISIS sympathisers. That's what they are at best. Active terrorists is what they are if the worst of the claims are in fact true. Now, if you think I'm angry here, you bet I am. I know you are angry too. Not only are we being lied to, but as we have seen so clearly on the beach at Bondi, radicals in this country will cost Australian lives. Terrorism is real, sadly, in this country now. It's not an abstract thing anymore. It's not just happening in other countries. It's real and it's here. And unless we move fast and root it out, we will never be safe. Now, right now, without any need for additional powers or new laws, Albanese could act to keep these men out right now. Now, as outlined here on the show last night, that's exactly what he can and should do. And here's that expert we often talk to about counter-terrorism, former Federal Police Superintendent Detective David Craig. Give us a sense right now of what he's got on his desk that he could use to keep this man out.
Okay, well, not even just this man, Peter. Pardon me. Okay, the first thing the government needs to be doing is using these temporary exclusion orders. Now, I've seen Tony Burke say that there'll be a constitutional challenge or the High Court won't like it. Well, the fact is no High Court has actually tested the validity, constitutional validity of temporary exclusion orders. So that's a nonsense. He's scared of something that doesn't actually exist. If this is going to push our laws to the High Court, then this is the case to do it on.
Angus Taylor, I really want to see you and the opposition take this fight up to the Prime Minister. Now, there's a whole lot of questions I've already outlined tonight that you need to demand are answered. And it can't be tolerated that departments, when asked to comment on issues like these, just refuse. Yesterday, Home Affairs was silent. The Minister, Tony Burke, well, he went to ground. The Prime Minister too. And today, DFAT's gone missing. Now, Foreign Affairs has literally hundreds of staff in its media team. Penny Wong, quite a few staff in her press team as well. And what no one can tell us anything about this bloke. No one's willing to give the Australian voter the truth. Really? We deserve answers. And I want Albanese pursued on this as well, because there may be a way right now to strip Dr. Jihad of Australian citizenship and not even need to use an exclusion order. Now, if I remember rightly, you didn't have to take up the citizenship of another country to lose your Australian citizenship. You just had to have the ability to do it. Now, presumably, in the case of the Dutch mother at least, he could avail himself of Dutch citizenship. Can we, under the current laws, cancel his ability to return to Australia, knowing that because of his mother, potentially his father, he will not be rendered stateless?
Look, I think that's a real possibility, Peter. I know the High Court has looked very carefully at removing citizenship as a punitive measure, but if there is an alternative nation state where they can go, I think it might be looked on favourably.
Okay, this too. How is it that Labor's Attorney-General Michelle Rowland could sign off warrants to arrest war hero Ben Roberts-Smith within hours, and yet it took weeks in relation to the ISIS-connected women now charged with terrorism offences and slavery?
Just in terms of the consent to prosecute, how long did it take the Attorney-General to sign off on the ISIS bride's consent to prosecute?
The CDPP wrote to the department seeking the Attorney's consent on the 20th of November 2025.
20th of November 2025, and the consent was provided on the 15th of December, so approximately just over 3 weeks compared to the 1 day with Ben Roberts-Smith. Okay.
There you go. I mean, how can we as a country have spent $300 million investigating our own soldiers who put their lives on the line to fight the terrorist Taliban, 41 of them who never came home alive, and be so weak here on these men and women who willingly left Australia to join Islamic State? How?
I just wish that they would put the same vigour and resources into stopping ISIS fighters returning to our country as they have in prosecuting some of our ex-veterans.
100%. I know you've got strong views on this as well. Enough is enough.
Now here is the part that makes the government's silence not just politically convenient, but legally indefensible. Temporary exclusion orders exist. They are on the books right now. No new legislation required. No High Court ruling has ever invalidated them. The government could, today, issue an order preventing Kamleh from setting foot on Australian soil. The constitutional objections Credlin attributes to government sources? She calls them what they are: unfounded fear dressed up as legal advice. On the citizenship front, Kamleh's mother is reportedly Dutch. If he holds or is eligible for Dutch citizenship, Australian law permits revocation without rendering him stateless. The tools are sitting in the drawer. The drawer is deliberately being kept shut. What we are left with is not a failure of legal capacity, it is a failure of political courage. One of 13 Australian men currently under investigation by Iraqi authorities for ISIS affiliation, and the Australian government's most consistent posture has been to avoid leaving fingerprints. The question is not whether Australia has the legal tools to protect its citizens from returning terrorists. The question is whether the people entrusted with those tools have the spine to use them. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one.
Picture this. A decorated Australian veteran faces a minor charge and the full weight of the law comes crashing down within hours. Warrants signed, resources deployed, no delay. Now picture this. A Perth-born doctor who willingly flew to Syria, joined Islamic State, treated its fighters, and is now sitting in an Iraqi prison. And for years, the Australian government's official position has been to look the other way, stay silent, and hope nobody asks too many questions. If that disparity does not make your stomach turn, you are not paying close enough attention. Quick favour, if you're the kind of person who loves Australia and wants to stay sharp on what is actually happening in our country's politics, hit that subscribe button and click the notifications bell. It keeps this channel alive. Over 90% of viewers watching right now have not subscribed yet, and it would genuinely mean the world to us if you did. Thank you. Now, back to the show. G'day Australia. Welcome to Oz Politics Report. The story that broke this week, driven by investigative reporting from The Australian and crystallised by Peta Credlin on Sky News, is not just about one man. It is about a pattern of institutional cowardice dressed up as procedural caution. The man at the centre of it is Tareq Kamleh, nicknamed Dr. Jihad, a Perth-trained medical doctor who left Australia to serve the Islamic State's so-called caliphate. For years, the public was led